Welcome to HBCU Her Voice, a place where we celebrate the powerful voices and stories of remarkable women from historically Black colleges and universities. I'm your host, Shanadra Washington, a proud HBCU graduate myself. I'm thrilled to bring you this platform dedicated to amplifying the voice of our community. We dive into inspiring stories of resilience, success, and the incredible impact these women are making in the world. From trailblazing entrepreneurs to innovative leaders, we bring you the stories that matter, showcasing how HBCU experiences shape paths and fuel passions. We'll explore challenges, victories, and wisdom. Whether you're an HBCU alum, a student, faculty member, supporter, or simply someone who believes in the power of diverse voices, we are so glad to have you. So listen up as we share insights, celebrate achievements, and uplift our community. Together, we can inspire the next generation of leaders and ensure our voices are heard loud and clear. A grand welcome to HBCU Her Voice. Well, you already know what time it is. We've made it back to another fabulous episode of HBCU Her Voice. And you guys know it's no secret. It's one of my favorite places to be. And I am extra today. I'm always extra when I know the guests and they rep in my school, my alma mater. I'm always going to be a little bit extra. But you know, I'm Shanadra Washington, your fabulous host in Houston, Texas, streaming to you live in living color. And today, I think it's going to be a good one. I know I say that often, but today it's really going to be a good one because we've been already working on the work, the real work. So let's just bring her to the stage. She gives us her name, where she's streaming from, which HBCU she's repping. I'm going to let her say it from her mouth, but you already know because I already told you. But without further ado, we don't waste any time around here. She's going to come on, give you those things, and jump right into her story. And here she is.
Hello, my name is Danica McKinney. I am streaming to you live from San Antonio, Texas. I'm not from San Antonio. I don't actually currently reside in San Antonio. I'm in the San Antonio area, but I am streaming to you all live from San Antonio. I went to Huston-Tillotson University in Austin, Texas. Very proud alumna of Huston-Tillotson University, former Miss Huston-Tillotson University. And just a little bit about me, and I want to keep it brief so that we can get to the better parts of everything. I'd say since starting Huston-Tillotson, I feel as though I have lived multiple lives. And I've looked at them all as seasons. And I think a lot of us use that terminology when we talk about our lives and where we are in the different phases of life. But I feel like I've lived multiple lives, from being a student in undergrad and just learning how to exist away from home, learning how to navigate life without necessarily being under the roof, my mom's roof, or being around my family, and then navigating friendships and the appropriate balance where it came to working, and then also being a human and being a student in general, to graduating and not necessarily knowing what I wanted to do, but giving everybody else an answer that was sufficient to get them to stop asking me the question about what I wanted to do, to taking time off in that a good chunk of time just to kind of figure out what I wanted to do next, to having a position working as an administrator at a facility for individuals with intellectual disabilities, and really finding a passion for serving, which has always been something ingrained in me, but most certainly helped sort of define something that has always been a part of my life. And then navigating that kind of season of my life while also finding opportunities to work in my passion, such as doing acting, and then finding a good church, and then suddenly being motivated because I got mad one day and deciding to be an attorney, which wasn't just like I think when I decided to do it was somewhat sort of a random decision to others, but it was, I wouldn't say it was so off course. And then spending all of that time going to law school, getting a master's degree in theology, and just really honing in on that, and learning more about myself in that season, to passing the bar exam, and now actually working as an attorney, but also serving on multiple boards and multiple organizations, and really trying to make sure that the person who I am in this practice is truly a reflection of the person who I am and who I pray that I continue growing to be. So I've been many versions of Danica R. McKinney. And I think the one thing that really makes me excited and keeps me motivated and makes me want to continue moving forward and challenge myself is knowing that there are so many doors that I haven't opened and so many opportunities that I have not even touched. And there are so many opportunities that await me. And I'm really excited about the seasons that are ahead. But I'm also thankful to know that instead of becoming multiple versions of myself, and who knows, maybe in years to come, that'll be I will be another version of myself, but I pray that I continue refining who I am and continue being able to shine in my light and feel like that I am truly allowing myself to be exactly who I am and all the things that I touch and connect with. So I'm really thankful for Huston-Tillotson University because that truly started me on the path of, I guess, self-discovery and being able to know and stand on truth and being able to make these decisions for myself and somewhat thrive in the many worlds that I live in. But that's me.
I think that's beautiful. And first off, like such a multitude of things, right? It's been it's been like and they're far stretching, right? They're kind of not in the same area. You know, you had law, you got acting, and that's a wide range of things. So for you to be able to show up and perform, you know, in those variety of arenas, speak to the testament of your resilience and really the power that you have to be able to navigate in worlds that are nowhere connected, Danica. So cheers to you on that. I want to talk to you specifically about you in the law space. Because law it's a wide range. I want you to talk about really where you specialize or where you're looking to go as a specific specialty in law. Is that something that you thought about? And just give us a little bit about your experience as a lawyer.
Shanadra, that's a tough question. I will say, so my area right now where I practice, I do civil litigation, but I actually get told quite a bit what area of law I practice in. I guess it's commercial litigation. We do a lot of matters that have to do with breach of contract, construction cases. I touch on some divorces, some other like very small criminal matters, but a majority of what we do, it has to do with like construction defects, things of that nature. What's interesting about the practice of law is that I think even me, like when I first started, I think so many people think, oh, that's a lawyer, they do everything, right? Like, so I'll have people reach out to me about criminal matters. I'll have people reach out to me on completely different levels. And the first thing that I have to say is that I don't practice in that area, right? Or I don't practice in that state. So we have completely different rules. And so I think there's so much that you can do. And when I first started, I was actually working as a staff attorney at the Bexar County Civil District Courts. Loved that position. Was extremely thankful to have gotten my start there. I actually had an internship there and it turned into a job. And what I always tell people is that I was required to know very little about a lot of areas of law because as one of the 4 staff attorneys, our responsibility was assisting the judges. So one of my colleagues, he always said that we are the judges' attorneys, right? So we have to assist them with a lot of what we know. And the good thing about that is that it gave me the opportunity to sort of touch different areas to figure out what I was interested in, while also in the staff attorney's office, we serve the public. So pro se litigants. And a lot of the time they were doing divorce matters. So I was able to touch on those different areas like divorces, name changes, things of that nature, while also on a larger scope, assisting judges with everything. So it's hard for me to say it's easy for me to say what I do now. It's hard for me to say what I really specialize in, aside from saying this is what I do now. But in the future, I think as I continue growing as an attorney, I'm still green, and this is technically my second career. My hope and my desire is I grow enough to where I can specialize in a specific area of law, where I can feel like I'm an expert, and I can better assist those individuals who I plan to serve. But yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I think knowing where you are, and number one, knowing if you have passion around it, and then it gives you the kind of green light to go through and keep discovering. So you're in a
Mhm.
place to where, yeah, it may be green, but we had a conversation that life is ever changing and moving very
Oh, it
quickly.
is.
So there will, of course, be other windows for you to be able to continue that path of discovery.
Yeah.
Now, because you've moved around a lot and we've kind of laid the ground here for this, and I talk about this every time that I can, that we can share a space. Let's talk about confidence and imposter syndrome. And
Mm.
we really have to walk this out as many times as we can on this show from different voices, different angles, because it's so important. It's running rampant, damn it, Danica. It's a real big problem, and I've been in different arenas. I want you to talk to me about walking in confidence. Where are you with that? Because you've moved around a lot, and sometimes
Yeah.
when you lived a lot of lives, like both you and I have,
Mhm.
confidence is one of those things because it's always something new. So you kind of sometimes have to build the confidence in a new space. So talk about that, and then maybe even a little bit of walk with the imposter syndrome. And if you feel that that's something that you still battle with, what are you committed to do
Yeah.
to overcome that space?
Whew, keep me on track, Shanager, because I'll go on a whole tangent. I think, okay, so confidence. Confidence is something that I've always struggled with, and I'm very transparent with that. As I'm looking at my hair falling apart right now, and so I'm like, oh. I'd say, you know, I think I'm a pretty shy person, and people don't believe me because I do theater. But I actually feel like I became so invested in theater because it gave me an opportunity to learn how to communicate in certain spaces and not feel so shy. But I've always been motivated to do things where I can express myself. Um, so where my confidence, it's always a struggle, especially in new areas and especially when I feel like I don't know. And I struggle with anxiety a lot. And especially in this space, this legal world, in it's shown up in a new way for me. I think I've always had anxiety, but it's definitely been something that I've struggled with even more being an attorney. And imposter syndrome is very real in this practice because I think, especially in law school, there's naturally like this competition between you and your peers. And my story is a little different because I was going my first year of law school. I was still had a full-time job. So I was literally going to class from like 8 to 5 and then running to work and then working from like 6 until like 3 in the morning, going to sleep, waking up at 5, like on this cycle. So I didn't really have time to feel like I was competing with anybody except myself. And I think that's where for me, it's the hardest is because I'm with myself all the time and I challenge myself to be the best version of myself. And so that perfectionist that I try to be, it it perfection is not it's not attainable. And so naturally I'm always struggling with, am I good enough? Do I know enough? Am I smart enough? When I'm in the courtroom or when I'm in spaces where I'm working with people who have years of experience on me, and I have to answer a question or I'm put on the spot, and I hate being put on the spot, especially when I'm just not prepared. And people have to understand, I get all the time, but you're an actress. You can act. You're so great. This is good for you. And for me, I'm like, absolutely not. I have a script when I act, and that script I have likely gone over multiple times. And when there is a case, you have somebody on the other side, and in life, you have somebody on the other side a lot. And you can't always predict what somebody is going to say. And so I really don't like to be put in a position to respond on the spot. And that's where I see myself waver, right? And that's where I see I'll start having those negative conversations with myself where I'm like, "Ooh, you do not belong here. Look at the space that you're in." And especially being a Black woman, which I'm not saying that I don't see other Black women in this profession, but there's just not enough of us. And so when a lot of the time you are the only person in the room that looks like you, it's so hard. And that's the easiest way that I can put it. But I would say the way that I have overcome this challenge time and time again, because I may have overcome it once, but I'll have another situation come up where I am forced to face that imposter syndrome, that insecurity, that lack of confidence, and you wear it, right? Like, so if I'm walking in a space and already I'm in my head, a lot of the time you can see it in my shoulders, you can see it in my face, how I have how I have come against it or overcome that is by having scripture or praying, or having my pep talks from my mom right before I go into a hearing or something that I have to do that is important, where I'm encouraging myself, right? Like, I'm with myself all the time. So it's only my words that are in my head that I need to counter, because there's really no one else who's saying it. It's all the thoughts that live rent free in my head that are telling me that I'm either not supposed to be here, I'm not good enough, I'm not qualified enough, people shouldn't listen to me, whatever it is. But I rebuke it, right? Like, those are my thoughts, and that fear, that's not of God. And I challenge myself, and I overcome by giving myself scripture. Greater is he that is within me than he who is within this world. And that is the one scripture that's really gotten me through. But then, like I said, also communicating with my mom and having people who will speak life over me. But it is an everyday challenge. And I know it's not something that I will, it's not something that I will defeat and not have to face again. But especially in this practice, it's very difficult.
Oh yeah, that's good. So two things from that segment. Number one, that moving away from perfectionism, because that's not a real place. I just want to encourage people that do that, and I say this often. I said, I will operate forever in excellence, but I'm never striving for perfection. And I tell people that all the time, like, I'm always going to operate in excellence. There's going to be an essence of me, but letting go of perfectionism is going to keep me moving my feet. Because if I try to stay there and waddle and do that, oh, guess what? Those feet are planted and they're not moving. So thank you for shedding light on that. That is beautiful. And the second thing I want to touch on is that you talked about this thing of wearing the lack of confidence, wearing the imposter syndrome. So that is testament that sometimes it's not even about what everybody else says about you or what everybody sees you as. You've already coined yourself that by wearing it. So the thing there is definitely that internal work and that shift to say that I am worthy, I am confident, because to be honest, those other people in the room, they fickled anyway. Sometimes they feel like enough, sometimes they don't, It's about having that internal compass to keep going. You gave an excellent segue here, and I want you to touch on this. And I don't go here in almost hardly any of the interviews, but I know you have a good base here. I want you to talk about your walk in faith. And I really want you to talk about really, you've already gave us, strong scripture, but the importance of tapping into that, because it's somebody that's going to always touch different things. You gotta have that strong faith base. So let us know about your walk in faith, and then why, your faith is so important to you.
So I would say, just to give insight, like I think I always label myself as the one in the room who's always going to pull God into it. Like, I'm always surprised if I go at least like 5 minutes and I haven't said thank God or an amen or something of that nature. Because I know I've experienced so much in this life, and I don't give myself a lot of credit for the things that I have overcome and been through. And I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that for God's presence in my life, and that I've leaned in and actually like listened when I need to. I think I've seen God show up in so many different areas of my life since I was a child, and losing my dad at an early age, and just some of the life experiences that I've had where I've always had faith has always been a part of it, going to church. And I can't say that it was ever difficult for me to just take that in, and then having my own journey with God, and seeing him show up in places where I needed him the most, and meeting him face to face at times where I really needed him to show up in my life. And I think I've had those moments where I felt like I couldn't hear God's voice because my anxiety, the feeling of needing to be the best version of myself, because I'm my biggest enemy, I am my biggest critic, got so loud in my head that there wasn't room or space for God's voice to come through. And I feel that it is in those times where my faith has grown stronger, when I've come through on the other side. And it was really hard to get to the other side. But finding finding ways to to counter those things that I say to myself, such as, which requires reading the Bible, right? Like, which requires getting in the Word, which required me specifically there were nights where I was going to bed and having YouTube just playing like sermons over and over and over again. It was me telling myself I wasn't going to listen to any other music except gospel music, right? Like, I'm just pouring it into my spirit. I am making sure that at every turn, I am filling myself with a word that I can use to counter the thoughts that are in my head. Because as I've stated multiple times since being here, I'm with myself all the time. So if I'm not saying good things and I'm not speaking highly of myself, or I'm not encouraging myself, I can't really expect anybody else to, right? And I also need the words to counter, right? Like, I need to have that so that I can come against whatever it is that's trying to come against me. And I feel that my faith is so strong. Like, that is probably the one thing that is unshakable, even when I'm most upset. And there have been times where I've been upset where I'm like, God, why are you putting me through this, right? It's really me just putting myself through it. But that I'm questioning what I'm doing. I'm questioning why. I'm questioning how I got here. And even being an attorney right now, I think sometimes I'm like, how am I even doing this? Like, where did this thought, how did this even come to be? But when I tell you that God has given me answers, even doing this right now, I think was this opportunity, and having being able to communicate and speak about like seasons of my life and where I've been and how I've overcome, and how Huston-Tillotson University played a part in that, or just in general my faith walk. All of those things in general, I feel that's God showing up in my life and saying, hey, there's this purpose for you. Hey, I have more for you to do. Hey, continue listening to me. Hey, be obedient. And I have no reason to be anything else. I have no reason to fear. And I guess I really don't know how to answer this question specifically, because my faith walk has been long. My faith walk has been trying, but my faith walk is every day. Even before I got on here, I was praying. Even as I'm communicating right now, I'm like, God, slow my speech and help me to communicate in an effective way to where the message is not missed. Help it reach the right people. And my prayer in all that I do, even me as an attorney right now, when I went to law school, I remember at some point in my second semester, I got a chip on my shoulder because I didn't see people who looked like me. And I felt like there were a number of things that had occurred where people, like grades and all kinds of things, that I was like, I worked so hard and I did really well. But also it just felt like I put so much into it. And I'm still working this full-time job and I'm trying to make this happen. And I was like, am I even meant to be in this profession? And I came across the opportunity to get your master's degree, and theology was one of them. And the little tagline for it was theology for those who want to practice law as a ministry. And I've always seen, one of my biggest prayers was that God would use me in this profession. God would use me in everything that I've done, every extension of myself, every time I put myself, use me. And to know that there's a way in which I can minister to people through this practice of law hit me so deeply to my core that I was like, okay, well, use me, God. And that was a blessed experience. And I'd say my walk in this field has been a blessed experience based on the feedback that I get from others, doing things that have nothing to do with law. But the only reason why I'm doing it is because I am in the practice of law. So the ways that God has shown up for me and given me a sign that I'm right where I'm supposed to be, keeps me moving forward and helps me continuously maintain, even when I get to my lowest, even when I feel like I can't keep moving forward. And I'm thankful for that. It requires a lot of dedication, but I'm thankful for that.
Well, let me just confirm that God is working on you and through you, right? This place has allowed people to see that. So the idea of this communication thing and I can't do this had to go because it's beautifully presented, right? And like you said, that you are spending the most time with yourself, right? So this is a place where you here with me, so I get to affirm
you. Get all of it.
Yeah, and I get to affirm you. I get to affirm you and give you roses in this
Bless
space.
you.
Because everything that you've went through and everything that you communicated has been clear and timely. What we talked about before the show.
Bless you.
And I see that his work is in you and it's going to come through you. So you will get a space in this time if you remain open to what we talked about, that you will get to serve from a pure place.
Isn't that okay?
Yeah, of course. a place that
That's saying a lot and saying if I remain open. I'm hearing what you're saying. I'm like, if I remain, we gotta remain open.
Yeah, you gotta remain open, and you will get that place where you can serve freely in the way that you desire. So that I do know and I believe. Let's take it back to Huston-Tillotson for just a second here. We've had, I want you to talk about a memorable professor. We get to do this on our show very well because we went to the same place. And I know for me, I can think about several professors I really, loved and honored. But I, had Dr. Bay at one time. He was teaching the chemistry classes because, I was a bio major. And he was an older gentleman, but he was always so caring. He always made sure that when I got ready to leave to drive home to Houston, he would always say, okay, you better be on that road by 7 o'clock, Miss Washington. And you better not stop in this town for gas, Miss Washington. He would give me like I never drove to Houston before. Every time, if he knew that I was leaving on that Friday, he would do that. He'd say, have you already filled up your tank? And I tell people that that's one of the parts of my HBCU experience that's very near and dear in my heart, because I literally had community. And we still had like a phone in our room. And I had a professor that used to call our phone in the room. We're gonna spill the tea, but I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't have gotten that. I wouldn't have gotten that anywhere else. And I always have to bring light to those experiences so that people can hear about them. And I really feel that as somebody that was really like a homebody and kind of sheltered, if I would have went somewhere else, I would have been overwhelmed. That's just me and my personal story. But I want to give you the opportunity to shed some light on our institution and maybe some of those people that stood out as just very memorable from our community.
Yeah. I love Huston-Tillotson. I remember I was terrified to go to Huston-Tillotson. I remember at first because I just didn't know. I didn't know what to expect being away from home and also coming from Seguin. And it's a town where there are people who look like us, but not necessarily a lot of people who look like us. And I was just hopeful that the experience would be a good one. And I was blessed enough that it was. It doesn't mean that it was always great, because it wasn't always great. But I will say that my first year, I think there was such an experience, and it was like learning the art of what community really is, and like getting to campus and having people who, like, I mean, I'm coming to campus and I'm the girl who I know who I am in my personal life. Like, I like video games, I listen to John Mayer, I'm like, all these things. I'm quirky. I love, doing theater, just all these things about me that make me me and to find others who like the same things. And so I'm seeing myself here on this campus, but then also being accepted by so many people on this campus, and then seeing professors who look like me in the classroom and who are holding us to this level of excellence that I think I've always just naturally felt like I've always naturally kind of succeeded. I don't think that academics were ever challenging for me. Keeping my attention was like always an issue for me, I think. And so having people who had like faith in me and faith in those around me, I think that was just so encouraging. And then also just the overall experience of being on a campus with a whole bunch of like people who were away from home for the first time that freshman year was just wild. But like also just so it was just wonderful. Like, I really can't say enough how wonderful it is. And I think our class was the first one where we had Tania. Wasn't the first class where we had Tania, but I remember Tania did like the whole freshman experience. It was just, it was wonderful. I will say I truly wanted to have an HBCU experience. I think some people feel like Huston-Tillotson doesn't have a football team. Doesn't make it any less. But I will say that the sororities, the organizations in general, pre-alumni council, Honda Campus All-Star Challenge, which I had the privilege and opportunity of being part of, all of those organizations really helped encourage me to continue serving. And also just how faith was so ingrained, which I think is ingrained in our culture. I know it's ingrained in our culture. Having a faith-based institution was very, very important, and it wound up being something that really impacted my life. Now, I will say that I had a lot of professors pour into me, and imposter syndrome was a struggle for me when I was in undergrad too. Probably people didn't realize that, but and I had the opportunity to participate and serve a lot on campus, and but I struggle with anxiety and I struggle with depression quite a bit, to be honest with you. And just like nerves and things, like just not knowing like next step. And the one professor, Dr. Summer Edmond, was outstanding my first year, I remember, and very encouraging. She was a part of the person over the W.B. Du Bois Honors Program. And I was very thankful for her. So she had some powerful words that she gave me, but it was also Dr. Hudson was fantastic for me. We'll leave it there because there's a whole story with that. But Dr. Hudson was just a fantastic professor. But it was actually Dr. Hirsch who he was over sociology. And I don't even remember why I was in his office. Probably maybe to get something reviewed or maybe to talk to him about attendance, because I struggled with like attendance in class because I'd have my whatever. And I remember I was really stressing. I guess I was wearing it because, like I said, you wear what you're feeling. And he told me the best place I could be for my family was right where I was, and at the school, and getting my education. And I think I knew what he meant then, but I have that come into my head so often now, is that sometimes I feel like I need to be everywhere for everyone except myself, but just like serving others, because I love service, but also sometimes it means that I put myself second quite a bit, or last quite a bit. And his words stick with me because I always, like, even when I was in law school, I would have to tell myself, right where I am is where I'm supposed to be. Like, I need to be right. This is the best place I can be advancing with positions that I've had. This is the best place that I can be to advance. And that's not saying don't show up at all for anybody in your life. But I think for me, it was very grounding because sometimes, or a lot of the times, what we find is like to break those generational cycles that we have in our lives, it requires you to do something that is out of the ordinary and out of the norm for your family or for you. And I think for me being still is something that I'm not always used to doing. Like, I'm used to action and immediately responding to things. And his words have continued to stick with me because they've helped keep me grounded and also help keep me focused, so that I remember when it's all said and done, at the end of the day, I will have done what I needed to do, and it's going to ultimately benefit us in the long run, right? If that makes any sense whatsoever. So I'm thankful. I'm truly thankful for my experience at Huston-Tillotson. That is the most abbreviated version of that story that I can tell. I praise it. I lift it up all the time. Very, very, very proud to celebrate how far Huston-Tillotson has come and continues going.
That is beautiful. And it's important on the show that I ask guests that, because like, you're only going to get kind of the version from me, because my undergraduate, I was like a bookworm. I wasn't in no no organizations or anything like that. So like, when people see me in this light, it's always kind of like, oh, like, what happened? But I do have the experience from a sense of community, because back then I wasn't set up like this. Like, your girl was not your girl was not at all doing all of this. I had my little core clique and we did our work, and that was it. I didn't do a whole lot of
And me, I was all over the place. I feel like I was doing way too long. I team too much. I don't know how to sit still.
So thank you for sharing a little bit more about campus life. I want to, as we wrap up the show, I want you to, if people wanted to get in touch with you, I want you to at least, provide your email or whatever you need to do for contact, if that's what you want to provide. And then we're also going to cue to your final thoughts, so that if someone just skims over this and they get nothing out of this time with Danica McKinney, I want you to offer your final thoughts, and we'll be back to close the show.
So if you want to connect with me, you're more than welcome to find me on social media. Facebook, Danica McKinney. I think if you look me up, you should be able to find me. It's a yellow picture right now. And if you want to reach out there on Messenger, you're more than welcome to reach out to me there. I'm always happy to connect with people. And I think, like, final thoughts, I don't know. I think I'm in such a season right now of life, like it's a transition season. And I am very reflective on the past and the present to understand more of how I can make a plan for my future. And I think if there is anything that I could leave you with, it would be at least like the desires of my heart is lead with love, and remain open to new experiences. Those are two things that I am continuously trying to put forth. And I'm praying forward that I continue to be a light in that regard, and allow myself to be open to whatever God would have me do, however He would have me serve, in the best way possible. But those would be the things that I would leave you with. I lead with love and be open to new experiences. And I'm so thankful to have done this.
Absolutely beautiful, beautiful episode, Danica. And if you guys are watching, you know that I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. And really and truly, like, I never skip on my guests. I am very partial to my guests. I tell you that all the time. So until next time, remember to let your voice shine. And we will be back with another amazing episode of HBCU Her Voice next time. And we are out.